What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today we are back again with another video. Today I have a very special treat. I'm actually here with the BSF Newark winners for the standard format, and I'm really excited to kind of bring you guys this interview, their deck lists as well. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but starting off with a brief introduction, we have Alec over here in the bottom right-hand side. Sorry if the screen's kind of glitching out. I don't know why it's really doing this, but Jake up in the top right, and then Kay right below me over here. So, Alec, why don't you just give a brief introduction of yourself and some tops you might have gotten in the past, just as a player.
All right, yeah. So hi, I'm Alec. Let's see, other tops I got. Just in the past year, two Legacy Cup first place finishes. Got two second places at BSF's last year in Newark, and then this year earlier in Toronto, and then top 8 in BCS Manhattan. And now happy to finally convert those into first place at an official event with BSF Newark. So,
Awesome, yeah.
I'm Alec. You can find me on Twitter at OOTMAN23, that's Ootman23. And that's all really it for me, so I'll leave it up to Jake next.
Hi, I'm Jake, resident PBD enthusiast. I previously topped second place Premium Toronto with my buddy Ootman.
That's me.
You'll find all my socials in the description. Not going to give those to you now. It's a little complicated. But yeah, happy to be here.
Cool. And then lastly, Kay.
Hi, I'm Kay. I'm the one not Team Generation member here, but I am from the city. You can usually see me play at CarQuest. I am the resident EVA simp here. As my accolades, I started this year's competitive season with winning my first Legacy Cup last fall, and then after that I topped BCS Manhattan. Unfortunately, didn't make any further than top 8, but finally my first Spring Fest, and I managed to convert that to a win, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, yeah, no, we're super glad to have all of you, and today we're not going to go so much into the deck profiles as I kind of mentioned. I more so want to understand just like the peripheral things going into the tournament and just certain things about the day. So just like starting off really like early on, what was your mindset kind of going into it? Like, you know, what mental prep maybe outside of the game did you do? Is there anything specific that you guys want to kind of start off with or mention? Because, you know, a lot of players looking out from the inside, they go to have fun. You know, a lot of players do want to win, but what did you think really going into it?
I guess I can start off, especially just because I think the mental prep has been a big thing for me, especially since like that's been an issue I had in the past with making top cut and then just like caving into the pressure. So going in with the correct expectations really felt important to me. And honestly, I guess we can get into this, maybe the more specifics about this part a little bit later, but I personally was a little more focused on the premium aspect for day 2, whereas my teammates were definitely, I think, a little more prepared for day 1. But I was kind of going in with the mindset like, all right, it's standard, we're very prepared, we know exactly what we're doing, but there is also a lot more variance that can happen, so just to be aware of that and go in with the expectations, but also still to obviously play to our best abilities. That will still take us farther than than anyone else if we are playing to the best of our ability. Sorry to cut you off.
But yeah, no, adding on to that, I definitely agree with Alec. I think me and Jake were definitely a little more adamant on playing standard. As an EVA player especially, I've been playing the deck since Set 5, and I felt like this was like my golden opportunity to get my biggest top with one of my favorite decks and with a team that I knew was capable of making it as far as we did. Especially for me, I think after BCS, I got a lot of confidence in my ability, knowing that I can play at the highest level and I can not cave to the pressure of playing in such a big room. I knew that I had what it took because my loss at BCS in top 8 was very unfortunate, all things considered. So I didn't really let it get to me. I wanted to kind of exact some revenge on that top, and overall, I think mentally, this top has given me a lot of like reassurance on my skills as a player. In terms of my expectations, obviously, I wanted to win, but more than that, I just kind of wanted to have a good time and not, deal with the pressure of playing with people who I felt I wasn't, comfortable around. Because I'll be the first to admit, I I didn't really choose to play with anyone in the city because I kind of didn't want to play with them. I didn't enjoy playing with them. So obviously, they're my buddies, and we ended up winning. So I'm glad.
Yeah, no, obviously it's super important to have pretty good chemistry throughout the day. It's a long event. You have to choose your teammates wisely, so to speak.
Yeah. There was a time when we didn't know what deck we were going to use as the third deck. I had been saying I wanted to bring this for so long. We thought it was going to be Welstra and I would be on Jet. But I was like, no, this is what I'm bringing. It is the best deck in the format. And I think I made that point to an extent.
Yeah, I think I'll let you expand more. I don't want to take away the whole thing, but I think a big part of playing Standard as well, because we were honestly thinking about playing Vite a little bit, but then just testing with PBO, a deck that Jake is super passionate about, and just really going more into it and feeling, wow, this deck feels really good into the current meta. I think a lot of people have heard, the current form, or the set 9 format at the time was really you play Jet, you play Eva, and then you play a third that's either one of the restanding decks or something specifically designed to beat Jet, and PBO felt by far the best option out of all of those.
Yeah, no, I totally. I mean, obviously, I was in the playtesting with you and stuff like that, and I could see that was a great meta call with that. And kind of segueing our topic to our next thing, what kind of prep did you do outside of your whole mental, what in terms of meta calls, your general prep, what goes into the research, general preparation? Did you have a schedule of practice, things of that nature? So just walk me through that prep and what really brought you to the conclusion to, I guess, bring PBD. Kind of starting off with Jake over here.
I'm gonna start this one. Yeah. So every 3 or 4 times a week, we'd hop on to test either some remote fight or in person, and they would obviously want to test premium. Being me, I'm not the biggest premium head. I do like the format, but I would always say, hey, can we get a couple games of Standard in? I really want to play some PBO. Because this is practically my pet deck. I brought this to last year's BSF as PBD. So I really love this deck. So any chance I got a time to play this, I brought it out. So that's how I prepared for the Standard format. I just played. I must have played close to 500 games with this deck.
That probably sounds right. Yeah, honestly. Yeah, I think a big part of it was also just consistently going to locals and whatnot, just being in that, even if it's smaller, being in that tournament-esque environment. And then as well, before the event starts, after the event starts, for locals, just jamming games, and then like Jake said, at home, doing remote fights or doing testing online and whatnot.
I feel like you're kind of discrediting our locals. I mean, the second place team also was our locals.
Yes, of course. I mean, I just meant an environment that's not regionals. Not to discredit our locals.
No, that's true. That's true.
It's a very.
As for me, well, a part of it was due to Eva being a very strong deck, obviously. But on top of me loving the deck, it was a very strong deck. My other option was playing Youthberg. There was a time where there was a certain point where we would have Alec playing Eva, we would have Jake playing PBO, and I would play Youthberg, because Youthberg's the deck that I love. I talk about that on Twitter all the time. I'm always coping. I'm Youthberg best deck. It's the best thing in the game. Reedy Soul Blast 4. It's the best thing in the universe. But in the end, we decided, you know what? It's just better to have Jet Eva than to have Eva. There's 2 not Jet decks. Because Jet was the undisputed best deck, I felt. Even though to me Eva was the best deck, I felt a large part of it was due to the fact that I am very biased towards the deck. But and that's what my preparation in terms of just playing the game itself. Obviously, I'm from the city. I don't get to go out to Long Island very often, so I don't get to play with my teammates here as much as I would have liked to, especially because I work and am a full-time student. So at the time, because now it's summer break for me, obviously, but because of that, my time was a little more tight, but I still did as much as I could within the city. I practiced a lot with my playtest group in particular. I practiced a lot with Garrison, as you guys have probably seen many times. He's won multiple Spring Fests and has topped a bazillion times. He topped Worlds. So a lot of my practice came from playing with him, this list is the list that you see on the screen right now. Actually, is the list that I won with was basically a 1-to-1 version of his list, barring some changes in the trigger lineup. But yeah, that's where most of my practice came from. Even though the quality of the locals in New York City, I want to say, is a lot lower than at Gotham City games, the locals that, Team Generations usually hangs out at, I felt that I had still a good enough level of preparation. So,
And this is not city slander. I think New York is extremely competitive throughout the city. So I just want to make that disclaimer before I get flamed in the comments.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly some good players all around, but
yeah, of course.
So
and also, I think just some final words talking about the Jet deck choice, because as the person playing it, there was a period of time where we were considering not having it. I think I was pretty comfortable on pretty much whichever deck I was going to pick, either Eva or Jet, or if I played Welstra and something else. It was really just a matter of getting the feel, making sure my teammates were prepared, and I felt that Kay was best on Eva, especially because he's been putting in so much work. So I was like, I think it's better to just put him on that, and I can play Jet. I'd been playing it since release. I love Premium, so the Stride deck set was perfect fit anyway. So it really just made the most sense to go with this.
So that kind of segues me into what I was about to ask anyway. You guys obviously have a very good rapport with each other. You seem, obviously pretty friendly and whatnot. How did you come to the actual decision? I know a lot of teams struggle, a lot of people in general just struggle. What deck am I going to play? Was it, somebody saying, hey, look, these are the 3 that we're going to play? Or did you guys come to a collective as a group? Did every person just choose individually, or did you guys discuss it? So how did you settle down on, yes, this is my 3. We're going to have, 2 of the medicals, the top meta decks, and then, PBO, which nobody was playing.
Yeah. I mean, I think like you said, it started off pretty simply with, okay, we're going to have Jet and Eva, and we were like, okay, either me or Kay can play Eva, and then pretty much any of us could play Chrono Jet if, we put the time in and whatnot. So it was really just determining the third, and my first pick going in initially when we started discussions was, Welstra's really good, so I'll play Welstra, Jake will play Jet. But he, kept preaching PBO. I was like, all right, we'll test it. And I said that for a while, and we just weren't able to get the games in. But once we finally did, it became very apparent that this was the deck to pick. It felt so good, and I mean, he performed very well with it.
Yeah, I was definitely on the receiving end of a couple of those losses he doled out. But awesome, cool. So. Just talking more about the event itself. Obviously, you guys have been to multiple Spring Pass and Bush Road Championship Series in general. What were the highs and lows of this particular day? And were there any memorable stories or just general experiences you could share that can maybe help other players out kind of going forward?
So I think I'll start on this section here. So obviously, as discussed earlier, me being from the city and the other 2 being from Long Island, there was definitely a little bit of a, of distance gap. Ideally, I would say the most optimal situation would be the 3 of us would get together before the day of the event, get some playtesting in and whatnot. It's, feel everything out as a team. One of the things I do regret morally was that in the month before this event, Alec and Jake's locals were holding team events to prepare for Springfest. And unfortunately, with Jake being away for school and me being away for a trip as well that was planned long ahead of time, we never got to play with all 3 of us together.
Yeah.
It was either me and Alec or Alec and Jake. So that was one thing that I felt that we could have done a little bit better. But in terms of leading up to the day of, I decided to stay over with Alec, get some last minute playtesting in, which I think definitely helped out with just getting to play my deck the day before the event, and know that I'm going in with 100%. I will say the highs, there were definitely some lows leading up to the win. We started off very strong. We started off 5-0.
Rounds 5 and 6.
Yeah.
We want to talk about those. Rounds 5 and 0.
Yeah.
Those
no,
were
6 and 7.
Oh, was it 6 and 7?
Yes, it was 6 and 7. We started 5-0.
7 and we won 8. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we started off 5-0. We started off amazing. It was like it was incredible. We were like, oh yeah, this is easy. So round 6, this was the round where I started having some physical problems. As I flipped up my starting Vanguard, I started getting this really bad headache. Probably from the fact that I got like 4 hours of sleep in. I didn't have any caffeine. I was eating McDonald's. That was not good for me. So I started feeling really bad physically, and I ended up forgetting to set my grade 1 research on turn 2, and then I miscounted when I stacked the overtrigger. So like my head was in another dimension. I felt like I wasn't even playing at the time. So
just to clarify, stacking, with Eva's, stack the bottom, not cheating.
Not cheating.
Just
yeah.
Not cheating. No.
Yeah, no, like around round 6 was when I think Jake and Kay especially were like starting to wind down. I kind of like the way my brain works, and I tend to just like push through the entire event, and then like I just come crashing down afterwards. So I was still doing relatively fine, but they were, they needed water, they needed some Advil and some food, which we were able to get to them. But for the few rounds when it was starting to kick in and whatnot, you could definitely tell it was a little rough.
Yeah, I mean, physically you have to. It's a long day. It's 9 hours plus, especially if you're like making it to the tops like you guys did, and like. Yeah, obviously, I don't know I guess in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not sure if you can bring water in anymore, but definitely bring water into the venue. The cups, they go away real quick at these things, as far as I could tell. So definitely stay hydrated and keep yourself like...
Hydrate or hydrate.
Yeah,
exactly. And then on a more positive note, I would say definitely, the biggest high was obviously, like when 2 of us, it was, those 2 first, I was the last one to finish, but in finals... won our games, then we just realized, okay, we just won the whole event.
Nice.
Like, oh my god.
Nice. Yeah, no, I can imagine that's definitely a good feeling.
For me, going into that final round and seeing that, these are our buddies from locals, it definitely helped ease the tensions. Like, I've been here before. I know these guys. I respect these guys. Let's just have fun.
Yeah, exactly, no, and it was another one of our teammates also on that team, so... Makes it a little, interesting at least, but...
Yeah, at the very least, you go in being like, all right, we're both here, we are in the finals, that's already a pretty good achievement.
Yeah,
Let's just have the best goddamn games we possibly can.
Cool.
And I'd say we did.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. Any other standout moments before we move on?
I think for me, one of the best highlights of my day was after round 6, the round where I basically had a physical collapse. That like afterwards, Alec gave me some Advil, and then my girlfriend gave me some candy, and that made me feel really good.
Nice.
And that was, and I felt like that
those
was
normal pills in his hand. I said, "You're gonna need these."
Yeah, but no, I felt a large part of that was because I think the 3 of us had pretty good. We're already like kind of buddies, anyways. Like me and Alec, Alec was the one that first got me to go to the Long Island locals that we go to. And obviously, Jake being a very good friend of Alex, eventually, I felt like we started having a really good chemistry with each other, and that really helped during the event because there was every thought like after every round we were like. Everyone were like, hell yeah, we had like a group hug.
Up every time he wins with PBO against Jet, which was, pretty much every round. Nothing
6 times over the day.
Hell yeah.
So what I'm hearing is the power of friendship.
Yeah.
Unironically.
And Phantom Blaster Overlord.
There you go.
True.
All right, cool. The last kind of like wrap up closing topic, just in general, if you would have a player who, they're in the game, they play, they're somewhat tuned in to like the whole community and whatnot, but they're just kind of sitting at that stasis point. What advice, what tips, whatever would you say that like, look, do this and you're going to reach that next plane? Like based on this experience, based on what you just went through, what kind of advice can you give?
I guess I'll start.
Let's let Jake start for a sec. I think he
First point of advice: play. But not only that, play meaningfully. If you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up about it. Make sure that you just learn from it. Just don't do that again. Because I am guilty of not doing this. I will just harp on myself time and time again. Alec is quite exhausted at this point.
Yeah,
once I started
bash this into your skull.
once I started actually taking these mistakes and just starting to think through my decisions every time I get to that point again,
Mhm.
I made those mistakes less and less and less. So the
Mhm.
more you play, the more naturally more mistakes you'll make. And the more mistakes you make, the more you learn from them and you won't make them again.
It's true.
Just play, 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 and play thoughtfully.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I'll just go next. Actually, no, okay. You were very passionate earlier, so I'll let you go, and then I'll finish
All
things
right.
off.
So I would say a lot of what Jake said definitely applies, but not just. But I think I'll speak more on the physical aspect because the physical aspect was actually my biggest crippling factor
Mhm.
during the event. Definitely eat a healthy breakfast. If you need caffeine as a full time student, part time worker, definitely fill yourself on caffeine because having a caffeine withdrawal mid event is one of the worst feelings ever. I had that and it costed me a game that I should have won.
Yeah, don't break your routine. You never do that in competition.
Mhm.
Your body has no
Yeah.
idea, you know.
Yeah.
4 hours of sleep. Obviously,
Nah,
obviously that was a choice that I made to sleep without to go over to Alex's place and
Mhm.
hang out with him.
Yeah,
and then we drive over
tested by a
to.
little too long.
But
Mhm.
at the same time, like under fully optimal circumstances, I feel like definitely like reserving a room near or at the venue is the right play, just so you get that extra hour or two of sleeping. That could be all different.
Mhm.
Having extra time to practice as well for the event in case if there's any last minute preparations you need. Definitely on the physical aspect, don't underestimate. Don't just think, oh, because now I'm ready to play because of my play testing that you'll do perfectly. Because I felt that going in with Eva, I knew how to play against every single matchup to a T, and I didn't really make any misplays that were like directly because I didn't know what to do. It was all because of my physical downwinding. So definitely come prepared. I think also especially on Alex end, if he's teaming with like me and Jake who really need our substance and whatnot, carry some Advil,
Yeah. Mhm.
And I guess Alec go.
Yeah, I mean, I've got I think two things to say. One on each end, both like the inside the game and the physical stuff, and then like outside. I'd say the first thing like outside of the game, like outside of the event, is like more so than just playing. Is also like talk to other players, just anyone you can find. Just like obviously, especially like well known like pro players, I guess. Have a lot of good insight. A lot of them are also content creators. Hearing what they have to say is very valuable. But even just other people at your locals, other people you play with, just hearing the perspectives of how other people just perceive the game can always be really valuable if you know how to take that into your like own account and how you play the game. And then the other thing, on the day of the event, which is this is actually something that another well-known player did teach to me, was being comfortable with how you hold your cards. Just like, how you guard, how you check top cards, how you place the cards in your drop zone, how you call cards, how you attack. Just being comfortable and just having everything be second nature allows you to use your brain to think about the actual plays that you're making rather than having to like putz around with your cards and like actively think about how you're holding your cards, which you shouldn't necessarily want to be doing when you would like to be using your brain power on like the actual plays and the game state.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually a really underrated piece of advice. Like,
Mhm.
have that muscle memory and all that stuff. So awesome. Do you guys have any closing thoughts or any other final statements you want to make before we wrap it up?
Well, firstly, I do want to highlight one meta call we made. That I think all of us totally forgot. One thing we definitely did was when it came to like the preparation. First off, with seeding, we looked through every single BSF result and determine the approximate probability of what deck is most likely to come at what seed. So we saw that in the data that we had, Jet was most often either in A or C. So
it was like A or B, because that's why we put
whatever
Jake
it
in
was.
B. But
My bad. My memory is a little hazy there, but yeah, at A or B. So, but more often A, if I remember correctly. So with that statistic, we would put Jake on A to take on all the
Jake
Chrono
was in
Jet.
B.
Yeah.
No, oh, Jake was B.
He was B. I was A. You two were next to
my
each other.
screen.
I think the point
Yeah,
that you're
yeah.
trying to make is like
Yeah.
you looked at things and you purposefully put a deck that you believe could counter what you were most likely to see in that seat.
Yeah,
and that
I
was
was
part
C.
of the prep.
So it was
in
A
general.
or B, and I would be C. So Jake played against, I believe it was 8 Chrono Jets,
Yeah.
and he won 6 of those 8 matches.
Mhm.
So, and I only saw 1 Chrono Jet, and Chrono Jet was widely known to be Eva's kind of worst matchup. Even then, the 1 Chrono Jet I played, I had a pretty comfortable victory. I felt pretty comfortable against Chrono Jet itself, even with Eva. So I felt that anything I faced, even Rogue or Meta, you know, it was
It was
alright.
a good blanket deck, to go against.
Yeah,
well.
and Jet was the deck that was a little vulnerable to some random high roll.
Mhm.
So, Jet, obviously, you know, those rogue decks would always be in C, so hence why we put the Jet in A. But also, specifically for this set 9 meta, this deck didn't really work for the set 10 meta, but at the start of the game, we would always ask our opponent for the account of their G zone.
Mhm.
Because that is technically public knowledge. And at the time, Chrono Jet was the only deck with a G zone. So
Every time I
obviously,
heard that,
Oh.
it's go time. It's go time.
So
baby.
you hear 8 cards in G zone, you know what you're up against.
I heard that 8 times.
Yeah. I think another thing is like we were looking at this data a lot, very thoroughly, but to some extent, we all knew as well that like you know every team there is gonna have a little bit of a different philosophy with the seeding. So at the end of the day, it might not matter as much as we thought. Luckily, in this case, it did work out very well for us with putting PBO in B. Then you know, like at the end of the day, the seeding is usually not something that needs to like. You don't need to like kill yourself over it or like stress over that. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but like you don't need to stress super much. But like having some sort of like logic behind it is never a bad thing.
Okay.
So yeah,
Cool.
just like the logic of you know put the jet counter in B because that's where we saw the most like topping jets, and then put jet in A ourselves because that's the second most likely. So I'll either one of us will play against the other jet, and I was confident in the
have a
match.
reasoning behind your
Exactly,
seating,
and
so.
then
Cool.
K on Eva and C to just like you know deal with whatever else you know people are playing.
Yeah, and for that, on that end, I pretty much dealt with everything. I actually went X2, and also in C, I saw several even mirrors. I saw, I think it was 4 mirrors, and I won 3 of the 4 mirrors. So it was like our philosophy. I think a lot of other teams had the same kind of philosophy. Put an Eva in C, play Eva or kind of the third restand rogue deck. I did face 2 overlords and a youth brick in my rounds as well. So that philosophy did turn out really well for us. Eva, I felt, was the strongest deck into all of those, barring Jet. All the decks in the meta barring Jet. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other last quick little things before we close up over here?
No, just check out my deck list.
There we go. He ducked out of the way.
Yeah,
I'll post all the lists down below too, so I hope that visual kind of helped a little bit though.
Yeah.
But thank you guys.
All these
There might be a little bit of a like scuffed, like you know, stuttering or whatever, but we're like,
yeah, I don't know
thought
what's
we
up
put
with
these
Discord.
behind
Maybe
us. Hopefully it shows up fine.
That's all good. Well, thank you guys so much for being on, and again, congratulations. It's, you know, big victory. I hope you guys see some repeated success in the near future too. So thank you again.
Thank
and
you for
this is
having
Alex.
us as
Yeah,
well.
of course.
Always good to just, you know, talk with you. You know, do it on the regular anyway. Now
I know. I was
just
gonna say.
looking at the camera too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Saying hi to you
Cool.
as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again. This is Alex from Team Generation signing out.